Hello, YouTube family. I wanted to come back on here to do part two of the Marjorie Taylor Greene story, as my last video involved the QANON Barbie trials and tribulations. She was voted out of all of her committees on Thursday. It was mostly a partisan vote. There were 11 Republicans who also voted in support of removing her from her committees in Congress due to the things she had said, the videos she made, the comments she liked on social media, including murdering prominent Democrat politicians. And prior to the vote, she gave a speech on the floor, and I wanted to first off start with playing the speech so you can hear her words leading up to the vote.
Republican colleagues, my district back home in Georgia 14, to the American people, to my mom and dad, and my husband and my children. I've been here for 1 month and a day, and I've gotten to know part of my conference, my Republican colleagues, but not even all of them yet. I haven't gotten to know any of my Democrat colleagues, and I haven't had to have any conversations with any of you to tell you who I am and what I'm about. You only know me by how Media Matters, CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of the mainstream media is portraying me. What you don't know about me is that I'm a very proud wife of almost 25 years, that I'm a mother of 3 children, and I consider being a mother the greatest blessing of my life and the greatest thing that I'll ever achieve. I'm proudly the first person to graduate college in my family, making my parents very happy and proud. I'm also a very successful business owner. We've grown our company from 1 state to 11 states. I'm a very hard worker. I've always paid my taxes. I've never been arrested. I've never done drugs, but I've gotten a few speeding tickets in my day. What you need to know about me is I'm a very regular American, just like the people I represent in my district and most people across the country. I never ever considered to run for Congress or even get involved in politics. As a matter of fact, I wasn't a political person until I found a candidate that I really liked, and his name is Donald J. Trump when he ran for president. To me, he was someone I could relate to, someone that I enjoyed his plain talk, not the offensive things, but just the way he talked normally. And I thought, finally, maybe this is someone that will do something about the things that deeply bother me, like the fact that we're so deeply in debt, that our country has murdered over 62 million people in the womb. The fact that our borders are open and some of my friends have had their children murdered by illegal aliens. Or perhaps that maybe we can stop sending our sons and daughters to fight in foreign wars and be used as the world's police, basically. Or maybe that our government would stand up for our American businesses and our American jobs and make the American people and the American taxpayers their focus. These are the things that I care about deeply. So when we elected President Trump, and then I started seeing things in the news that didn't make sense to me, like Russian collusion, which are conspiracy theories also and have been proven so. These things bothered me deeply, and I realized just watching CNN or Fox News, I may not find the truth. And so what I did is I started looking up things on the internet, asking questions like most people do every day. Use Google. And I stumbled across something, and this was at the end of 2017, called QAnon. Well, these posts were mainly about this Russian collusion information. A lot of it was some of what I would see on the news at night, and I got very interested in it. So I posted about it on Facebook, I read about it, I talked about it, I asked questions about it, and then more information came from it. But you see, here's the problem. Throughout 2018, because I was upset about things and didn't trust the government really, because the people here weren't doing the things that I thought they should be doing for us, the things that I just told you I cared about. And I want you to know a lot of Americans don't trust our government, and that's sad. The problem with that is, though, is I was allowed to believe things that weren't true, and I would ask questions about them and talk about them. And that is absolutely what I regret. Because if it weren't for the Facebook post and comments that I liked in 2018, I wouldn't be standing here today, and you couldn't point a finger and accuse me of anything wrong, because I've lived a very good life that I'm proud of, my family's proud of, my husband's proud of, my children are proud of, and that's what my district elected me for. So later in 2018, when I started finding misinformation, lies, things that were not true in these QAnon posts, I stopped believing it. And I want to tell you, any source, and I say this to everyone, any source of information that is a mix of truth and a mix of lies is dangerous, no matter what it is saying, what party it is helping, anything or any country it's about. It's dangerous. And these are the things that happen on the left and the right. And it is a true problem in our country. So I walked away from those things, and I decided I'm going to do what I've done all my life. I'm going to work hard and try to solve the problems that I'm upset about. So I started getting involved in politics. You see, school shootings are absolutely real. And every child that is lost, those families mourn it. I understand how terrible it is, because when I was 16 years old in 11th grade, my school was a gun-free school zone, and one of my schoolmates brought guns to school and took our entire school hostage. And that happened right down the hall from my classroom. I know the fear that David Hogg had that day. I know the fear that these kids have. And this is why, and I say this sincerely with all my heart, because I love our kids, every single one of your children, all of our children. I truly believe that children at school should never be left unprotected. I believe they should be just as protected as we were with 30,000 National Guardsmen. Our children are our future, and they're our most precious resource. I also want to tell you 9/11 absolutely happened. I remember that day crying all day long, watching it on the news. And it's a tragedy for anyone to say it didn't happen. And so that I definitely want to tell you, I do not believe that it's fake. I also want to tell you that we've got to do better. You see, big media companies can take teeny tiny pieces of words that I've said, that you have said, any of us, and can portray us into someone that we're not. And that is wrong. Cancel culture is a real thing. It is very real. And when big tech companies like Twitter, you can scroll through and see where someone may have retweeted porn. This is a problem. This is a terrible, terrible thing. But yet, when I say that I absolutely believe with all my heart that God's creation is He created them male and female, and that should not be denied, when I am censored for saying those type of things, that is wrong. You see, here's the real situation. I decided to run for Congress because I wanted to help our country. I want Americans to have our American dream. I want to protect our freedoms. This is what I ran for Congress on. I never once said during my entire campaign, QAnon. I never once said any of the things that I am being accused of today during my campaign. I never said any of these things since I have been elected for Congress. These were words of the past, and these things do not represent me. They do not represent my district, and they do not represent my values. Here's what I can tell you. I am beyond grateful for this opportunity, and I'll tell you why. I believe in God with all my heart, and I'm so grateful to be humbled, to be reminded that I'm a sinner and that Jesus died on the cross to forgive me for my sins. And this is something that I absolutely rejoice in today to tell you all. And I think it's important for all of us to remember none of us are perfect. None of us are. And none of us can even come close to earning our way into heaven just by our acts and our works. But it's only through the grace of God. And this is why I will tell you, as a member of this Congress, the 117th Congress, I am a passionate person. I'm a competitor. I'm a fighter. I will work with you for good things for the people of this country. But the things I will not stand for is abortion. I think it's the worst thing this country has ever committed. And if we are to say in God we trust, how do we murder God's creation in the womb? Another thing I will say to this body is I want to work with all of you for our people. It should be America first always, always, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if this Congress is to tolerate members that condone riots that have hurt American people, attacked police officers, occupied federal property, burned businesses and cities, but yet wants to condemn me and crucify me in the public square for words that I said and I regret a few years ago, then I think we're in a real big problem, a very big problem. What shall we do as Americans? Shall we stay divided like this? Will we allow the media that is just as guilty as QAnon of presenting truth and lies to divide us? Will we allow ourselves to be addicted to hate and hating one another? I hope not, because that's not the future I want for my children, and it's not the future I want for any of your children. I yield back.
Okay, so that was her plea to the Congress in order to try and prevent the embarrassment of being removed from committees. As always, if you like these videos, you can like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. I do thank you for watching, and I jotted down some notes when I watched her speech on Friday, and she starts out, she goes into, she's a mother of three, she's a wife. Okay, plenty of people are. That changes nothing. I mean, just because you're a mother of three and a wife doesn't allow you to spew racist nonsense. It doesn't allow you to agree with the idea of killing politicians. It doesn't allow you to do any of this stuff. It didn't justify anything. That is just a plea of sympathy because she's trying to say, I have kids, I have a husband, I've been married for 25 years. And she brings up the company she and her husband run. They have a construction company. I think it's around 11 states. Their construction company has contracts in. From what I read, it looks like they're bringing in around $20 million per year from their construction company. And Marjorie Taylor Greene came into her fortune the old-fashioned way. She was born with the right last name. She got her construction company from her father, who created it. And so, I mean, she says she's a hard worker. Yeah, who wouldn't be? You know, give me a company that I can make $20 million a year in, and I'll work my butt off. She says she got into politics because of Trump. She loved what he said. Not the offensive stuff, just the normal talk. Sorry, I listened to Trump for 4 years. There was no normal talk. I don't know that I ever heard something I would call normal talk out of Donald Trump. That's utterly ridiculous. I mean, as we've seen, what people liked about Trump was the racism, the xenophobia, the homophobia, the racism, all of that. That's what people liked about Trump. I'm assuming, and once I play the videos of Marjorie Taylor Greene, it'll be clear. That's what attracted her, because that's what she was saying prior to her own running for Congress. She brought up the Russian collusion, saying, that's a conspiracy theory too. Not really. You had people who went to jail because they were trying to set up communications between Russia and the Trump campaign. People like Papadopoulos. I mean, the Russian investigation by Mueller got a lot of people arrested. You know, the Republicans keep on with this talking point that it cost a lot of money, which isn't true. They recouped so much money in fines from the Mueller investigation, it made money for the government. That was profitable. And this whole idea that, well, subscribe to these conspiracy theories, but hey, you believe the Russian collusion, and that was a conspiracy theory. Not true. Not true. She subscribes to QAnon, the conspiracy theory that all Democrats and their supporters are satanic, pedophile cannibals. Looney Tune stuff. She says that the media pushed her into QAnon. She says she saw the things in QAnon on the news. What? What did you see on the news that had anything to do with QAnon? Seriously. I mean, there have been more QAnon supporters arrested for child pornography since Trump's been in office than I've seen any. I don't know of any Democrats who have been arrested for child pornography. You had the Wiener guy from New York. He was a Democrat, and he was arrested, I believe, twice now for sending lewd pictures to underage girls. That's as close as I've seen the Democrats come so far. And she makes the claim that she was allowed to believe things. I've got news for Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm assuming she's not that bright, because the thing is, we all have the ability to believe things. We're all allowed to believe things. I mean, it's up to you to parse the bullshit from the reality. And if you don't have the ability to do that, that's up to you. That's on you. I don't want you serving in Congress. She claims that other than this mistake, she's done nothing wrong in her life. she's completely guilt-free outside of the conspiracy theories, the wanting the agreeing that Democrat leaders should die, and claiming that Jewish space lasers started wildfires. She claims to have stopped believing in QAnon in 2018. However, she was propagating QAnon crap as late as December of 2020, just this past December. So what she's saying there is not true. She claims to know the fear that David Hogg had. She talked about her school being taken hostage when she was in high school. She understands the fear David Hogg had. When I played a video of her hounding after David Hogg, a guy who was, and I mean, since this whole thing on Thursday, she has come out and made the statements that, well, he was 18 when I attacked him, so that's all right. He wasn't a kid. He was an 18-year-old. When you were attacking him on the street, he was going to testify in Congress because he had just survived a school shooting where 17 of his classmates got killed. And you're following him down the street, hounding this 18-year-old kid who was either still in high school or had just graduated high school at that point, and saying, I have a gun on me. I always carry a gun on me. And she makes the claims that if schools had armed guards, there wouldn't be any more school shootings. The Parkland school shooting where David Hogg went to had an armed guard. It didn't stop the school shooting. The armed guard ran and hid. She was saying that they need 30,000 National Guardsmen to defend schools like the Congress had during the inauguration, during the Washington had during inauguration. Yeah, who's going to pay for that? You don't want to pay. Republicans aren't wanting to pay the cost for school to begin with, let alone a lot of the other things that we pay for in this country. Who's going to pay for the 30,000 guardsmen at every school in this country? That's absurd. She claims, I believe 9/11 happened. You never said 9/11 didn't happen. You know, what you were pushing were conspiracy theories within 9/11, claiming that planes didn't fly into buildings. She's claiming that the media took her out of context. I'm going to play her videos. These are videos she made and she put on the internet herself. These are all her creation. So, no, sorry, nobody took her out of context. They just took her at face value for what she was saying. She mentions God because that is another appeal to the right-wing base. You know, a lot of people on the right, if they hear you say God, Jesus, the Bible, they're like, oh, she's good. You know, she mentioned Jesus, she's good. She claims to have been censored for her religious belief. You know, she makes the comment that she believes that God created man and woman, and I've been censored for that. And who? Who censored you for that? I really would like to see the receipts on that. I don't believe it, not one bit. Sorry. You have all the ability in the world to say, I believe marriage is between one man and one woman. You can say it all day long. It's not until you start attacking the LGBTQ community that you run into trouble, because then you're crossing over into hate speech when you're making attacks on a marginalized group in society. She claims to have not said the QANON stuff or other stuff during her campaign or since. As I said, that's untrue. She was still pushing that crap as recently as this past December in 2020. She invokes God again because appeal to the base. She claims she is a sinner and we are all sinners. Okay? What is that? Is that your religious get out of jail free card? You're like, well, I'm a sinner, so you just have to forgive me because I admitted I'm a sinner. She denigrates abortion. I realize there are Republicans, the most fervent right-wing, these diehard Trump cultists, they are all opposed to abortion. They claim to be pro-life. Very untrue. There's plenty of life they're willing to get rid of. She brings up the American first and mentions our people. We should be concerned about America first and taking care of our people. And she really should have been more clear on that. What's our people? Because I'm gonna play a very extremely racist rant that she goes on that is absolutely absurd. And I want to know, when she says America first, our people, is she talking about white right-wingers? White right-wing straight Christians? Who is she claiming is our people that need to be taken care of? And then she brought up, she believes that members of the Democrat Party in Congress condoned riots and looting. Not true. What they condoned was peaceful protests against police brutality on the black and brown community in this country. And I also support that because it's absurd. I mean, it's crazy. And I just think loaded the video of the 9-year-old girl getting pepper sprayed in the backseat of a police car. One of my recent videos. I mean, it's absurd what's going on. But let's go into her videos, because that's her own voice. This is the racism of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Does not belong in our government.
We're fighting.
Doesn't exist in America.
It doesn't exist.
But the generations of black and Hispanic men, do you want to know what holds them down? Gangs. Being in gangs and dealing drugs is what holds them down. The lack of education is what holds them down. That's not a white person thing, but gangs control them. They tell the young men in their communities, don't go to school. Don't you move out of this project. Don't you move out of this community. You join this gang. And that's where you belong. You belong with us. The gangs are holding them back. It's not white people.
I mean, she is literally claiming that black families are not wanting their kids to go to school to get an education. They're wanting their kids to join street gangs. Like, black parents are demanding their kids join street. That is absurd. Defend that. Tell me how that's taken out of context. She made that video of her own free will. This is her attacking David Hogg.
David, why are you supporting the red flag laws? If Scott Peterson, the resource officer at Parkland, had done his job, then Nicholas Cruz wouldn't have killed anybody in your high school, or at least protected them. Why are you supporting red flag gun laws that attack our Second Amendment rights? And why are you using kids as a barrier? Do you not know how to defend your stance? Look, I'm an American citizen. I'm a gun owner. I have a concealed carry permit. I carry a gun for protection for myself, and you are using your lobby and the money behind it and the kids to try to take away my Second Amendment rights. You don't have anything to say for yourself? You can't defend your stance? How did you get over 30 appointments with senators? How'd you do that? How did you get major press coverage on this issue? And how did you get kids? Why do you use kids? Why kids? You know, if school zones were protected with security guards with guns, there would be no mass shootings at schools. Do you know that? The best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is with a good guy with a gun. But yet you're attacking our Second Amendment. And you have nothing to say. No words. So I'm walking. He's got nothing to say. Sad. He has nothing to say because there really isn't anything to say, you guys. He has nothing to say because he's paid to do this. He has the walkaway march. He's got the women's march, and they're funding all of this. Everytown Gun USA, they're funding all this stuff. Okay, that was David Hogue right there. David, we saw him inside the Senate building. He had 30 appointments where he ran around and got to talk to senators. I got to talk to none. He had media coverage all over the place. I had zero. Guess what? I'm a gun owner. I'm an American citizen, and I have nothing, but this guy with his George Soros funding and his major liberal funding has got everything. I want you to think about that. That's where we are. And he's a coward. He can't say one word because he can't defend his stance, because there is no defense for taking away guns. There is no defense for gun confiscation. Zero. And so there he goes. He just keeps walking with his two ladies that probably work with him.
Maybe his handlers?
Maybe his handlers, absolutely. They're telling him, don't say anything. So that's the problem. They have handlers. And they have no argument back. None. That's it. I'm done.
In that video, she is attacking David Hogg, who is a survivor of a school shooting. He was in the Parkland school shooting. She mentions the video. He's walking down the street with two girls. They look rather young. I'm assuming they're girls that go to high school with him, that were in the group pushing for gun control regulations with him from his high school. She talk, says the crap about his handlers. They're his handlers, and she makes a comment that he has everything, she has nothing. I want to remind you, she inherited a construction company that earns her and her husband millions of dollars per year. I mean, it's absurd to say that this kid who was 18 years old, who was either still in high school or who had just graduated high school, after surviving a school shooting where 17 of his fellow students were murdered, has everything. All he's doing is showing up in Washington to talk to Congress at a hearing over his movement's push for gun control. And she is a wealthy right-wing nut attacking him in the street as he's going there. This next video is Marjorie Taylor Greene claiming that there is a Muslim invasion in our country.
Into our government offices right now, okay? They are, you saw after midterm elections, we saw so many Muslims elected. I don't know the exact number, but there were quite a few. We had that woman out of Minnesota. Now she's going into Congress and she's got to wear a head covering. They want to put their hand on the Quran and be sworn in. No, you have to be sworn in on the Bible. But we have an Islamic invasion into our government offices. Now, yes, I'll say this, we have freedom of religion in this country that protects anyone to have any kind of religion that they want. And that's great. That's one of our freedoms, right? But I'm sorry, anyone that is a Muslim that believes in Sharia law does not belong in our government. They don't. Islam is the Sharia law is the most brutal. It is a horrible, horrible law. They brutalize women. They throw gay people off of buildings. It is not a place for justice. No. This is a place where the men over there, they can have sex with anybody they want. They have sex with little boys, little girls, multiple women. They marry as many women as they want. They marry their sisters, their cousins. I'm sorry. That is not dignity. That is not justice. That is not compassion. That's not love for humanity. Let me explain something to you, Mohammed. Let me explain. We already have equality and justice for all Americans. Muslims are not being held back in any way. That's our Constitution, our Bill of Rights guarantees everyone equality and justice. But what you people want is special treatment. You want to rise above us, and that's what we're against. They should stay in their countries and make their countries great again, right? Leave our country alone. Leave it alone. This whole world, this beautiful, beautiful, big blue ball, planet Earth, it's like a buffet of countries. It's like a buffet. If you want Islam and Sharia law, you stay over there in the Middle East. You stay there and go to Mecca and do all your thing, and you know what? You can have a whole bunch of wives or goats or sheep or whatever you want. You stay over there. But in America, see, we made it this great, great country. We don't want it messed up.
And that was her attacking Muslims, basically saying that if you are a Muslim, that you aren't really welcome here. If you're Muslim, you need to stay over there. If you agree with Sharia law, you need to stay over there. And the thing is, I mean, the only two Muslim women in Congress, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, neither one agree with Sharia law. Neither one have ever said anything positive about Sharia law. I've never talked about, we should have Sharia. That is a right-wing talking point. It's BS. Is there Sharia law in Muslim countries overseas? Yeah. Have we been trying to ship it in over here? No. That's the kind of crap you'll hear from Tucker Carlson, from Sean Hannity, probably from people like Laura Ingraham, certainly Newsmax, OANN. That's the kind of stuff they peddle. It's fear-mongering tactics. There is no push for Sharia law here. The next video is her attacking Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, the two Muslim women in Congress.
Signed that they swore in on the Korean. Oh, we have the Bible. We're going to talk about swearing in on the oath, how to swear in on the Bible with them, and let them know what our law says, that you can't swear in on the Korean. So we're going to explain that. You know, we're going to explain about how you can't swear in on the Korean, and we're going to have the Bible and ask them if they would swear in on the Bible. That we really need them.
We have the oath.
Yeah, we have the oath. Yep. So I think that's
now
important.
they can. The sad thing is now they
You're
can
infringing on our religion.
which you should not
You're
be able to.
infringing on our religion.
Yes.
By saying that we can't swear in on the Quran.
But when they swore in, it wasn't a law yet, right? At the time they swore in.
I don't know.
I think at the time they swore in, that wasn't passed. Because it wouldn't have been passed in a Republican control.
Right.
Yeah, so it was passed after they swore in. So they're not really official, I don't think. So let's go ask them to swear in the Bible. Because like you said, Will,
It has to be the Holy Bible?
yeah, it has to be the Bible.
Well, the bottom line is
there actual
the
law
bottom line is
Yeah.
Sharia law is not compatible with America.
Yep,
That's the bottom
That's the
line.
bottom line.
that's the bottom line.
How can you say you represent women but you support Sharia law?
And at that point, she was not in Congress. She traveled to D.C. and was with a Bible, was saying that she was going to get Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar to swear in on the Holy Bible because it's required by the Constitution. Not true. And she was bringing up that they swore in on the Quran, and the reason why they swore in on the Quran is because they're Muslim. One of the things that I do love is history. I love reading about history. I've always liked history. And apparently Marjorie Taylor Greene does not care much for history, does not read much history, doesn't study much. I'm assuming she's never seen the Constitution, never read it, because this country was founded as a secular government, a secular state. The founders of this country made it very clear they wanted to separate church and state. They wanted nothing. They did not want in any way for politics and religion to mix. And there is no requirement to swear in on anything. You have to take an oath of office when you go into Congress. And you can swear in on something, or you can take your oath on nothing. You could use a Spider-Man comic book to put your hand on as you do your oath. All that matters is you take your oath, 1, and 2, that you uphold your oath. But no, there is no requirement to swear in on the Bible. The Constitution makes it very clear that there will be no recognized national religion in this country. Everybody has freedom of religion. And that's something that she does not seem to understand. And honestly, a lot of the right-wing people seem to not understand it. That people have freedom of religion. And you shouldn't attack people over the religion. And this is her talking about the school shootings being fake.
Friends, I've got a question for you. How do you get avid gun owners and people that support the Second Amendment to give up their guns and go along with anti-gun legislation? How do you do that? Maybe you accomplish that by performing a mass shooting into a crowd that is very likely to be conservative, very likely to vote Republican, very likely to be Trump supporters, very likely to be pro-Second Amendment, and very likely to own guns. You make them scared, you make them victims, and you change their mindset, and then possibly you can pass anti-gun legislation. Is that what happened in Las Vegas? Is that why the country music festival was targeted? Because those would be the people, would be the ones that we would relate to? Are they trying to terrorize our mindset and change our minds on the Second Amendment? Is that what's going on here? I have a lot of questions about that. I don't believe Stephen Paddock was a lone wolf. I don't believe that he pulled this off all by himself. And I know most of you don't either. So I am really wondering if there's a bigger motive there. And does it have to do with the Second Amendment? Because what's the best way to control the people? You have to take away their guns. So that's just my question today. This is Marjorie.
And this is her talking about going to D.C. on the Stop the Steal route.
If we have a sea of people, if we shut down the streets, if we shut down everything, if we flood the Capitol building, flood all the government buildings, go inside. These are public buildings. We own them. We own these buildings. Do you understand that? We own the buildings and we pay all the people that work in the buildings.
And that's the 6 videos up together. Like I said, that is a small sampling of the stuff she's put out online. She has a ton of it out there. Well, there was a ton. Honestly, when all this stuff started coming to a head, she started deleting stuff from the internet like a mad woman. I mean, at some point, somebody in the Republican Party let her know it was a problem. They didn't have the backbone to do anything about it. And that's the thing. You know, Republicans are criticizing Democrats for voting her off for committees, along with the 11 Republicans who voted that way as well. And the thing is, Republicans wanted Democrats to do that because they did not have the guts to do it themselves. Normally, the Republican Party will remove their own people from committees, like Stephen King when he was removed from his committees. Same thing with Democrats. When Democrats screw up, embarrass the party, whatever's going on, somebody's drawing too much attention for the wrong purpose, the Democrats would remove them from committees. In this case, the Republicans are afraid of the right-wing crazies on the base because they don't know how many it is. They don't know if it's 5% of the base or 95% of the base. And they don't want to piss them off because Marjorie Taylor Greene fits right in there with the crazies. That's what she's in Congress for. She has no legislative agenda. And, I mean, the whole result of taking her off her committees is how you propose legislation. So basically, her not being on committees is leaving her with where she can't propose any legislation. She's just stuck. She's basically neutered in Congress. She's just showing up and being there. Anything that's a floor vote, she can vote, yay or nay. And she indicated that she's happy to be off the committees because now she has more free time, because I guess that's what she assumes American people want, is for people in Congress to have more free time on their hands. And she talked about her constituents' voices were being silenced by the Democrats. And I want to make things clear. Their voices were silenced by their choice to choose her to represent them. She's the one that silenced them. And they contributed to it. This whole thing of the right wing saying you need to take accountability for your own words and actions. Don't blame us for anything. Nothing's our fault. We take no accountability for anything we say or do, but you need to. That's BS. And so that was her speech. She's off the committees. She's basically got no role in Congress right now. She's just taking up space. And when she comes up for re-election, there's a chance she's going to try and run for the Senate in Georgia. There's a chance she could win a seat in Georgia. 2 senators just got voted in, both Democrats, in the runoff election. And there is a seat coming up, I think, in 2022, in 2 years. And there's a good chance she's eyeballing trying to move higher into that role. I don't know for sure, but if she runs for re-election in her district, there's a good chance she'll win. It's a very red right-wing district. I don't know that. I mean, the Republicans, I would never count on them to have backbone to do anything, to try and push somebody to run against her. I mean, when she ran initially, she was running against a brain surgeon. The 14th district in Georgia chose her over a brain surgeon. But that's her. In her own words, she, tries to push it off on other people. It's the media, it's the Democrats. People are taking me out of context. People are attacking me for no reason. I don't believe this stuff anymore. I haven't said it since I started running for Congress, except for the stuff I did say while I was running and after I got voted into Congress. But she's nonsense. She has no role, and if she gets reelected to her seat in Georgia in 2 years, then she'll be back on committees. It's a temporary thing for this session of Congress right now that's going on that she's a recently elected member of. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. Have a good day.